So we're going to look at starting your seedlings off. It's the most important thing at this time of the year, and it's the perfect time of the year, is to be getting your seedlings growing. And you can be doing that on window ledges in your houses, in your greenhouse, wherever it's a wee bit warmer and where you can keep an eye on things. So there's a few things you need in order to do that. There's a few obvious things like seeds. You're going to also need seed trays, and there's a lot of different varieties of options there. Got a few here. Here's a popular one at the moment. Upcycle a milk carton or a juice carton, cut the edge off of it, pierce a few holes in it for drainage, you're good to go. You could pack that with seeds and grow a lettuce crop on your windowsill or herbs, that would work fine. Other options is something more modular. This is a kind of rubbish, cheapy plastic one. It's pretty flimsy, it's not going to last very long, you're not going to get a lot of life out of that, but it will last you a few years if you take care of it, and it can work really well for slightly bigger crop. Maybe something like beetroot would work quite well on that. Also got a slightly more rigid tray on this one, so it's a slightly better quality. Again, a little bit bigger modules, so probably quite well suited to something that's going to grow a bit bigger, a bit quicker. And you can also just go with a basic seed tray. Actually, a lot of what you might think about is how much space it's going to take up to start with. So starting off seeds, it's quite an efficient way in a seed tray like that. You could actually sow a number of rows quite densely of various different crops all across them in one tray and germinate that in your house. The trade-off, of course, is that once they all germinate, you're going to have to split them out and thin them and pot them on, and all of that involves more work. So there's no right or wrong answer to a lot of these things, but if you're a bit pushed for space, starting a lot of crops in one tray can actually be quite a good solution. You'd be surprised how many you could fit in that. And then as they get bigger, you separate them out and you pot them on into other trays, but at that point you're going to need a lot more space for your trays as you do that. So the other option, of course, is you don't have to grow in seed trays to start with. You could sow direct outside. The weather's warm enough. Now we're getting into April now and the soil's warming up, so this time of the year you're pretty much good to plant things like radishes directly into the ground. Seeding straight into the ground though comes with its own issues. Obviously you've got very little control over what happens to your seeds as they emerge, so it can be a bit of a free-for-all with birds and different pests and diseases. So the trade-off again is that if they survive that direct sowing, and some seeds are more robust than others, then that's pretty low maintenance in terms of how much work you're going to have to do once they establish themselves. If they're in trays and modules, then that involves a bit more work, to the point where you're happy that they are, of course, more robust by that point, so you can plant them out. But there's a lot more work involved in managing each of those stages. There's a bit of a trade-off. You have to decide which seeds are maybe better suited to that. So one of the things you probably want to think about is, what's your plan for growing? How much food do you want to grow? Are you going to try and feed your family, your neighbours, your neighbourhood, the whole country? Well, I would start small. Just try feeding yourself and maybe your wife and children if you have some. That way you're not going to put too much pressure on yourself. Then you're going to need to think about what you want to grow. So a good rule of thumb is to grow things that you want to eat. And on top of that, I would try and make life easy for yourself and grow things that are easy to grow as well. And some vegetables are easier for beginners and others would be considered sort of expert level. So radish, for example, is very easy to grow, very trouble-free generally. Cauliflower at the other end of the scale is actually a pretty tricky vegetable to get the sort of size of a cauliflower head that you might get from the supermarket. Not an easy thing to achieve. Another thing you probably want to think about is, what's your situation? So do you have a big sunny garden? Do you have a windowsill? Do you have a garden that's in shade all day? There are solutions to all of these things, but you do need to give it a bit of thought, because they will dictate to some degree what you can and can't do. And there's no point in trying to do something that you can't do, because you're just going to invite a whole world of pain for yourself. So better to identify what these constraints are to start with, and then to work with them rather than against them. It'll make your life a lot easier in the long run. So once you're ready to grow and you've identified what seeds you want to sow and you've got your trays ready or your modules, then you need something to grow in, and normally that takes the form of compost. There's great composts from top end of the range, organic seed composts that you can buy. and if you've got access to that, go for it. They're perfect. However, a lot of us don't, and that's fine. You can get big massive bags of probably sort of 50-litre multi-purpose compost mixes from places like B&Q. They often come kind of hard packed as if they've had a herd of elephants sitting on top of them. So if you have compost like that, I would encourage you to break it up. If you've got a garden sieve, give it a sieve. What you don't want is loads of big solid chunks in it. What you need when you're sowing seeds for good germination, you need a kind of good connection between the seed and ideally a nice fine kind of crumbly mix around it. You want a good contact with the seed. If seeds germinate and roots come out and they hit air, that stops the roots growing. Air prunes them. So that's why you want a really good connection all around. So there's lots of different compost out there, but the most important thing is that you just get on and do it, and don't worry, the seeds want to germinate, they want to grow, so if you follow a few basic rules, they will do that. And the other thing you're going to need are seeds, and again there's a whole range of different seeds out there that you can get, and a whole different range of suppliers, from top end organic suppliers to slightly more expensive heritage varieties to ones that you can buy in Lidl and Aldi, and they all work fine, they all grow fine. It's just a question of how much you want to spend and what you've got access to. And at the moment it's a bit harder to get hold of some of these things, so I would encourage you just to get hold of whatever you can and go with that.